The September sun blazed through the windows of apartment 12B in Brooklyn's Park Slope neighborhood. Sarah wiped down the last of the lunch dishes while listening to the familiar afternoon soundtrack. Sirens wailing down 7th Avenue, the building superintendent arguing with a delivery driver, someone's air conditioner rattling against the brick exterior. It was 3 o'clock on a Thursday afternoon. Sarah was 31 years old, with honey blonde hair she kept in a practical ponytail, and a routine as predictable as the F-train schedule. Married for 6 years to Michael, a regional manager at a car dealership in New Jersey, she had built exactly the life she'd always imagined. Stable, secure, uncomplicated. The sound of furniture scraping across hardwood floors in the adjacent apartment interrupted her thoughts. Someone was moving into 12C, which had been vacant for the past 6 weeks since the elderly couple relocated to Florida. Sarah peeked through her living room window and spotted the moving truck, double-parked on the street below. 2 sweaty men hauled boxes and furniture, while a tall woman with a stylish pixie cut directed traffic. She wore a plain white t-shirt, dark jeans, and Converse sneakers. Even from a distance, Sarah noticed her confident, purposeful movements. Must be the new neighbor, Sarah thought, returning to her kitchen. That evening, while Michael watched ESPN with the volume too loud, Sarah heard music drifting through the shared wall. Something mellow. Maybe Nora Jones or Etta James. She was surprised by the choice, expecting something more upbeat from someone who looked so young and energetic. The next morning, Friday, Sarah encountered her new neighbor in the hallway. The woman was locking her apartment door, carrying a leather messenger bag and a portfolio case. "Good morning," Sarah said, smiling warmly. The woman turned, and Sarah got a better look at her features: expressive hazel eyes, an easy smile, and that intangible quality some people possess, a presence that's impossible to ignore. "Good morning. You must be my neighbor. I'm Alex." She extended her hand naturally. "Sarah, welcome to the building." Sarah shook her hand, noting the firm, warm grip. "Thanks. Still getting settled, but I think I'm going to love it here. The neighborhood seems great." "It is. There's an amazing bakery on the corner, a Whole Foods 2 blocks down, and the subway's super close. If you need anything, just knock." "That's so kind. I might take you up on that." Alex smiled again, and Sarah felt an immediate connection. In the elevator down to the lobby, they chatted. Sarah learned that Alex worked as a freelance graphic designer and brand consultant, had relocated from Portland to pursue new opportunities in New York, and this was her first time living alone in the city. "That's brave," Sarah commented. "I never lived alone. Went straight from my parents' house to living with my husband." "Oh, you're married. That's nice. Well, I'm in the phase of figuring out who I am without depending on anyone else, you know?" Alex said it lightly, but Sarah sensed an untold story behind those words. Over the following days, Sarah found herself paying attention to the sounds from apartment 12C. Alex woke early, played music while working, always jazz, soul, or indie folk, and sometimes talked on the phone with what sounded like her mother, in long, affectionate conversations that made Sarah smile. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next chapters. The next Saturday, Sarah was watering her small balcony garden when she heard Alex's voice from the other side of the divider. "Your plants are gorgeous. You've got a talent I definitely don't have. I've killed 3 succulents since I moved in." Sarah laughed. "Succulents are the easiest. You're probably overwatering them." "Absolutely. My anxiety manifests in over-caring for things." There was something so honest in that statement that Sarah wanted to know more about this woman. "Want to come over for coffee? I just made banana bread." "Seriously? I'd love to. Give me 5 minutes?" When Alex appeared at her door, Sarah noticed she'd changed, swapped her old t-shirt for a teal blouse that brought out her eyes. She brought a bottle of wine. "For next time you invite me over," she said with a grin. They sat on Sarah's small balcony, and conversation flowed as if they'd been friends for years. Alex talked about her family in Oregon, her teacher mother, her retired father, her younger brother finishing law school. Sarah shared about her administrative job at an import company, how she'd met Michael in college, Her dream of someday opening a small boutique or design studio, something that seemed increasingly distant as the years passed. "Why don't you do it?" Alex asked, as if it were the simplest thing in the world. Sarah hesitated. "You know how it is. Life happens, bills pile up, and those dreams kind of get pushed to someday. Someday never comes, Sarah. I learned that the hard way." There was momentary sadness in Alex's eyes, but she recovered quickly. "But hey, it's never too late. You're still young." They laughed together, and Sarah felt something she hadn't felt in a long time, the excitement of making a real friend. Michael came home late that afternoon, tired as always. He greeted Alex politely but without much interest, grabbed a beer from the fridge, and went to watch TV in the bedroom. Sarah felt a twinge of embarrassment at her husband's disinterest, but Alex didn't seem bothered. "I should go. Let you two have your Saturday evening," Alex said, standing up. "This was so nice. Let's do it again soon?" "Definitely, and next time we open that wine." When the door closed, Sarah lingered on the balcony for a few more minutes, watching the city lights flicker on in the distance. There was something different in the air, a feeling that her meticulously constructed routine had just gained a splash of color. Over the following days, Sarah and Alex began meeting frequently. Coffee in the mornings before work, conversations on the balcony in the afternoon, shared laughter about the building's quirks. The super who always asked about everyone's business, the board president who complained about everything, the couple upstairs who argued loudly every Tuesday night. Sarah discovered that Alex had a sharp sense of humor, loved cooking despite claiming to be terrible at it, and had an impressive collection of books that overflowed from makeshift shelves in her still organizing apartment. "You need to read this author," Alex said one afternoon, lending Sarah a book. "Joan Didion. She'll change your perspective on everything." Sarah had never been much of a reader beyond light fiction, but she accepted the book. That night, she started reading and found herself unable to stop. The words seemed to describe feelings she didn't know she had, restlessness she'd always pushed to the back of her mind. Michael noticed the change. "You seem different," he commented one Wednesday over dinner. "Different how?" "I don't know. More animated. Something happening at work?" "No, everything's the same. I just made a new friend. The neighbor. Alex." "The woman who moved in?" Michael shrugged. "That's good. You needed more friends anyway. You've been staying home too much." Sarah didn't respond. It was true she'd isolated herself in recent years. College friends had drifted apart, each following their own path. The wives of Michael's friends were pleasant enough, but there was no real connection. With Alex, it was different. It was easy, natural, as if they'd always known each other. The next Friday evening, Alex knocked on Sarah's door with a bottle of wine and 2 glasses. "Is Michael home?" "Business trip. Won't be back until Sunday." "Perfect. So we can finally open that wine and you can tell me what you thought of the book." They settled on the balcony under Brooklyn's starlit sky, rare to see through the light pollution. Sarah had prepared snacks, and conversation flowed between literature, work, abandoned dreams, and new aspirations. "Can I ask you something personal?" Sarah said after the second glass of wine, feeling bold. "Of course. Have you ever been married? Or are you seeing anyone?" Alex took a sip of wine, thoughtful. "I've had serious relationships. The last one ended about a year ago, and that's actually why I decided to start over here in New York. I needed a fresh beginning." "Was it very difficult?" "It was liberating, actually. I was in a relationship that didn't let me be who I really am. You know when you love someone but realize you're losing yourself in the process?" Sarah didn't know, but remained silent, waiting for Alex to continue. "It took me a long time to understand who I really am, and when I did, I realized I was in a place that no longer fit." Alex looked at Sarah with an intensity that made something shift inside her. "Life's too short to live a lie, Sarah. Even if it's a comfortable lie." "Are you talking about sexuality?" Sarah asked, surprised by her own courage. "Among other things, but yes, that too." Alex smiled. "I hope that doesn't change anything between us." "No, not at all. I've never had close friends who were, gay. You can say the word, it doesn't bite." Alex laughed, and Sarah laughed with her, feeling her face flush. "Gay," Sarah repeated, and they both laughed harder. The rest of the evening passed in lighter conversation, but something had shifted. Sarah felt a door had opened to a world she didn't know existed. It wasn't about Alex's sexuality. It was about her courage to be authentic, to live without masks. When Alex left, it was past midnight. Sarah lay in the empty bed, staring at the ceiling. She thought about Michael, their 6 years of marriage, the predictable routine they'd built. She thought about her design dreams, abandoned in the name of stability. She thought about Alex, her easy laugh, her courage. She grabbed her phone and sent a text. "Thanks for tonight. It's been a while since I felt so much like myself." The response came quickly. "You're amazing, Sarah. Don't forget that. Good night." Sarah fell asleep with a smile on her face, not knowing this would be the last night her life would make sense the way it always had. October arrived with its crisp mornings and warm afternoons typical of New York fall. Sarah woke earlier, chose her clothes more carefully, styled her hair in different ways. Michael vaguely noticed these changes but didn't comment, absorbed in his own concerns about the dealership's quarterly targets. Sarah and Alex now saw each other almost daily. Shared breakfast before work became routine. Alex appeared with fresh bagels from the corner shop. Sarah brewed strong coffee, and they talked about everything and nothing while the city awakened outside. "Have you ever thought about taking a design course?" Alex asked one morning. "Like, seriously, you talk about it so much I can see your eyes light up." Sarah stirred her coffee, thoughtful. "I've researched some. There's one at Parsons that looks good, but it's expensive, and with our expenses..." "Sarah, you work, you have your own income. Why not invest in yourself? Michael thinks it's a waste of time. He says we need to save money for the future, for having kids." Alex was silent for a moment. "Are you guys trying to have kids?" "Not exactly trying. But he talks about it. Says it's time. That I'm already 31. Sarah sighed. "Sometimes I feel like my whole life is already mapped out, you know? Get married. Check. Next step, kids. Then, raise the kids. Then, grow old. And at no point do I ask myself if that's what I really want. And is it? Is that what you want?" The question hung in the air like smoke. Sarah didn't know how to answer. Guys, this story is getting intense. If you're relating to Sarah's dilemmas, comment below and don't forget to subscribe to the channel to see how this story continues. That afternoon, Sarah did something impulsive. She registered for the design course. She used the credit card from their joint account, but decided she'd pay with her own money. When she told Alex, she received a tight hug that lasted longer than a normal hug between friends. "I'm so proud of you," Alex said, and Sarah felt her heart race at the closeness. Classes started the following week. Twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays, from 7 to 9:30 in the evening. Sarah came home energized, full of stories about projects, classmates, techniques she was learning. Michael listened half-heartedly, agreeing vaguely while watching TV. Alex, on the other hand, wanted every detail. She asked to see exercises, praised progress, suggested ideas. Sarah began doing small design projects for her, a logo concept, then a mood board, then a complete brand identity for a fictional company. "You have magic hands," Alex said, reviewing the work. "This is better than half the stuff I see from established designers." It was late October, a Friday. Michael had traveled again, this time to Philadelphia for an automotive conference. Sarah and Alex decided to order Thai food and have a movie night. They were sitting on Sarah's couch, the second bottle of wine half empty, when Alex commented on the film they'd just watched, a French romance full of nuances. "I love how European films portray love," Alex said. "It's always so complex, so human. None of this forced happy ending stuff." "Do you believe in happy endings?" Sarah asked. "I do. But I think a happy ending isn't about being with someone forever. It's about being happy with yourself, regardless of being alone or accompanied." "Are you happy alone?" Alex turned to look Sarah in the eyes. "I'm learning to be. What about you? Are you happy accompanied?" The question was too direct, too raw. Sarah felt tears threatening to surface. "I don't know. I think so. I should be, right? Michael's a good man, treats me well, doesn't drink excessively, doesn't fight. But I don't know if that's enough. I look at him and feel gratitude, security, comfort, but I don't feel that spark, that desire to be close all the time, to talk until dawn, to... Sarah stopped, realizing where her words were leading. To feel alive, Alex completed, her voice soft. Yes, to feel alive. The silence that followed was charged with something unspoken. Alex was very close on the couch. Sarah could smell her perfume, something citrusy and fresh. She could see the small freckles on Alex's nose that she'd never noticed before. She could see the way Alex looked at her, with an intensity that made her stomach flip. Sarah, I need to tell you something, Alex began, her voice slightly trembling. What? Since I met you, I've felt a connection that's hard to explain. And I know you're married. I know you're straight. I know this is complicated, but I can't pretend I don't feel this. Sarah's heart was beating so hard she was certain Alex could hear it. Feel what? That you're special to me, more than a friend. Sarah should have pulled away, should have said it was a misunderstanding, that she was married, that she wasn't who Alex thought she was. But instead, she heard her own voice saying, I feel it too, and it scares me so much. Alex took Sarah's hand, intertwining their fingers. It was a simple gesture, but it seemed to carry the weight of a world. You don't need to be scared. Alex, I've never felt anything like this for a woman. I don't even know what it means. It doesn't need to mean anything yet. Feelings are just feelings. You don't need to put a label on it or make a decision right now. But Sarah already felt a decision was being made beyond her control. That hand in hers, that gaze, that closeness. Everything seemed inevitable and terrifying at the same time. I don't know what to do, Sarah whispered. Then don't do anything. Just stay here with me. Now. And they stayed there, hands intertwined, watching the end of the movie without paying attention, each lost in their own thoughts and the sensations that simple touch awakened. When Alex left, it was past 2 a.m. At the door, she hesitated. Sarah, if this is too much for you, if you want me to back off, I understand. I don't want to complicate your life. You're not complicating anything, Sarah said, which was both true and false. I just need time to understand what I'm feeling. Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere. Sarah locked the door and slid down to the floor, hugging her knees. What was happening to her? Was it possible to discover something so fundamental about yourself at 31? How had she spent her entire life without questioning, without wondering if there were other possibilities beyond the path that had always seemed so obvious? She grabbed her phone and searched, how to know if you're gay at 30. The results were numerous. Stories of women who'd gone through the same thing. Sarah read testimonials of dissolved marriages, families who didn't understand, but also of new beginnings, love found, authenticity achieved. She thought about Michael sleeping in a hotel in Philadelphia, unaware that his wife was having an existential crisis in their living room. She thought about what it would be like to tell him, to face her conservative family, to rebuild her entire identity. And then she thought about Alex, her smile, the way she made Sarah laugh, how complete she felt in her presence. How, for the first time in years, she felt truly alive. She slept little that night. When Michael returned Saturday afternoon, Sarah was exhausted but tried to act normal. He noticed she was quiet, but attributed it to fatigue. You're working too hard, he said, kissing her cheek distractedly. You need to rest more. Sarah nodded, but knew the exhaustion was of a different kind. It was the exhaustion of carrying a truth she didn't know how or when to reveal. On Sunday, Sarah avoided Alex, didn't respond to messages, pretended not to be home when she heard a knock on the door. She needed space, needed to think, needed to understand what was happening without Alex's disturbing presence confusing her thoughts. But Monday morning, when she was leaving for work, she encountered Alex in the elevator. The silence was uncomfortable. Are you okay? Alex asked, her voice careful. I am. Just needed some time. I understand. Sarah, look, I don't want you to feel pressured or uncomfortable. If you want us to go back to being just friends, I respect that. Sarah looked at her, at those hazel eyes full of genuine concern, and knew that going back to being just friends was impossible. Something had irreversibly changed between them. "I don't know what I want," Sarah admitted, "but I know I don't want to lose you from my life." Alex smiled, a sad but understanding smile. "You won't lose me, I promise." The elevator doors opened in the lobby. They exited together for another day, but both knew nothing would be as it was before. November brought frequent rain and a chill that caught New York off guard. Sarah used this weather change as an excuse to stay home more, avoiding prolonged encounters with Alex. They still talked, exchanged messages, but there was a new, unspoken tension hovering over each interaction. Michael noticed Sarah was different. "You barely touch me," he commented one night, after a frustrated attempt at intimacy. "Is something wrong?" "It's not you," Sarah said, and it was true. "I'm just tired. Work. The course. Maybe you should drop that design course. It's stressing you out." The suggestion irritated Sarah disproportionately. "I'm not dropping it. It's the only thing making me happy lately." "The only thing? What about me?" Sarah didn't respond, and the silence said more than any words could. The following week, Sarah had a particularly good design class. She'd completed her first major project, a complete brand identity with logo, color palette, and mock-ups with professional-level execution. The instructor praised her in front of the entire class, saying she had natural talent. Sarah left class radiant and, without thinking, went straight to knock on Alex's door. It was almost 10 at night, but she knew Alex would still be awake. Alex opened the door in pajamas, her glasses making her look younger. "Sarah, everything okay? I finished the project. Look." Sarah entered without waiting for an invitation, showing her work on her tablet. Alex's eyes lit up. "This is incredible. Sarah, you really have a gift." She examined each element, each detail. "This is portfolio-ready work. You think so?" "I know so. You should seriously consider freelancing. I have contacts who'd hire you in a heartbeat." "Really?" "Actually, I've been working on an idea. Want to see?" Alex led Sarah to her improvised office, a corner of the living room with a large desk covered in papers, tablets, and fabric swatches. She opened a file on her computer showing a brand concept. "I was thinking, what if we partnered up? I'd handle branding and marketing, you'd handle design work. We could start small, work with local businesses, and see where it goes." Sarah was speechless. She looked at the screens Alex had created. Mood boards, client profiles, mock-ups of how their collaborative work would look. Alex had done all this thinking of her. You did all this?" "Over the past few weeks, yes. I know you said you needed time, that you were confused. But I can't stop thinking about you, Sarah. About us. About the potential we have together." Alex paused, realizing how exposed she'd made herself. "Sorry. I promise not to pressure you. Folks, if you're rooting for Sarah to find her courage, leave a comment telling us what you'd do in her position. And subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what happens next." Sarah felt her eyes fill with tears. No one had ever done something like this for her. Michael supported her passively, but had never really invested in her dreams, and here was Alex, who'd known her for barely 2 months, creating an entire project, believing in her in a way she didn't believe in herself. "Why do you do this?" Sarah asked, her voice thick. "Because when I look at you, I see someone extraordinary who doesn't realize how brightly they shine. And I want to be here when you finally see it." Sarah couldn't hold back the tears anymore. Alex approached, wiping tears from her face with her thumb in a gesture so intimate and natural it made Sarah's heart race. "Alex, I'm so scared." "Of what?" "Of everything. What I'm feeling. What it means. What's going to happen. You don't need to be scared with me." And then it happened. Sarah didn't know who took the first step, whether it was her or Alex, but suddenly their lips met. It was a hesitant kiss at first, questioning, as if asking permission, and then it deepened, and Sarah felt her entire body awaken in a way she'd never experienced. When they separated, both were breathing hard. Sarah brought her hand to her lips, shocked by what had just happened. I need to go, she said, already heading for the door. Sarah, wait, but Sarah had already left, running down the hallway, entering her apartment and locking the door as if fleeing from something dangerous. She leaned against the door, touching her lips, still tasting the kiss. What had she done? She'd betrayed Michael. She'd kissed a woman. She'd liked it. God, she'd liked it so much. Sarah slid down to the floor, hugging her knees, crying silently. Her entire life was crumbling and she didn't know how to stop it, or if she really wanted to stop it. Michael found her still sitting on the floor when he arrived from work an hour later. "Sarah, what happened?" "I'm not well," was all she could say. He helped her up, concerned. "Are you sick? Should I take you to the doctor?" "No. I just need to sleep." Sarah locked herself in the bedroom, ignoring Michael's worried knocks on the door. She knew she couldn't avoid the conversation forever. But that night, all she could think about was the kiss, the way her body had responded, the terrifying discovery that maybe she'd never really known herself until that moment. Over the following days, Sarah became genuinely ill. It wasn't physical, but her body seemed to be rejecting the emotional tension. She took a week off work and stayed home, avoiding Alex at all costs. Alex respected her space but sent short messages every day. "I'm here when you need me. Don't be afraid. Whatever you decide, I'll respect it." Michael was confused but tried to be understanding. He made soup, brought medicine, asked if she wanted to watch any movies. Sarah accepted everything gratefully, but couldn't feel the connection she should feel with her own husband. It was her mother who finally made Sarah face the situation. She called on a Thursday afternoon, worried because Michael had mentioned Sarah wasn't well. "Honey, what's going on? Are you working too hard? Is there trouble in the marriage?" "Mom, Sarah swallowed hard. She couldn't tell her mother the truth. Not yet, maybe never. "I'm just confused about some life things." "Confused how?" "Sarah, are you pregnant?" No, Mom. It's not that." "Then what is it? You can talk to me." But Sarah couldn't. Her mother was a devout Methodist, had very strong opinions about right and wrong, about what was natural and what wasn't. How could she tell her mother that she'd kissed a woman and that it had been the truest kiss of her life? "I'm just tired. I'll be fine." After hanging up, Sarah grabbed her phone and, before she could regret it, sent a message to Alex. "Can you come over? Michael's working late." The response came immediately. "On my way." 5 minutes later, Alex was at her door. She brought a thermos of tea and a package of cookies. "Thought you might need something warm." They sat on the balcony, in the place that had become theirs. The sun was beginning to set, painting the sky orange and pink. "Alex, about that night." "You don't need to explain, but I do. I need to tell you that wasn't a mistake, that I don't regret it. But at the same time, I'm terrified because I don't know what to do with this." Alex took Sarah's hand. "Sarah, you don't need to do anything right now. You don't need to run out and tell everyone or make drastic decisions. You can simply accept that you felt something, and that's it. But how do I go back to my normal life knowing this? Maybe you don't go back. Maybe this is your new normal." Sarah looked at Alex, at this woman who'd entered her life like a gentle hurricane, changing everything without asking permission. "I don't want to lose you. You won't lose me. But I also don't want to hurt Michael. He doesn't deserve this." "No, he doesn't. But you also don't deserve to live a lie. And let's be honest, Sarah, you being unhappy isn't fair to him either." It was the truth Sarah didn't want to face. Her unhappiness in the marriage had started long before Alex appeared. Alex had simply illuminated something that was already there, hidden, waiting. "I need time to think," Sarah said finally. "Take all the time you need, but Sarah, I need you to know something." Alex turned to look at her directly. "I'm falling in love with you, and I know that complicates everything even more. But I can't pretend it's not true." Sarah's heart leaped in her chest. No one had ever said that to her with such raw sincerity, not even Michael, who'd proposed by saying it made sense for them to get married after so many years together. "I'm also feeling something I've never felt before," Sarah admitted. "And that scares me more than anything else." They stayed there, hands intertwined. watching the city light up, each knowing a decision would have to be made soon, but in no rush to get there. When Alex left, Sarah felt a clarity she hadn't had in days. She knew what she needed to do, even if she didn't yet know how to do it. That night, when Michael came home, Sarah was in bed reading. He lay down beside her, tired. "Are you feeling better?" "I am." "Michael, we need to talk." "About what?" Sarah closed her book, took a deep breath. "About us. About our life. Are you happy with me?" The question caught Michael off guard. "What? Of course I am. Why are you asking this?" "Because I need to know. Do you love me?" "Sarah, we've been together almost 8 years. Of course I love you. But are you in love with me? Do you get butterflies when you see me? Do you think about me during the day?" Michael frowned. "We're not teenagers anymore, Sarah. Mature love is different. It's companionship. Partnership. What if I say I want more than that?" "More like what? You want me to be more romantic? I can do that. I can bring flowers, plan dinners." "It's not about that, Michael." Sarah felt tears threatening. It's about feeling alive, and I haven't felt that way in a long time." Michael was silent, processing. Then he said, with a careful voice, "Have you met someone else?" Sarah couldn't answer, and her silence was answer enough. "Who is it?" Michael asked, his voice getting hard. "It doesn't matter who it is. Is it someone from work? From your design course?" He was getting angry now. "Is that why you've been so strange lately?" "Michael, it's not about another person. It's about me. About who I am and who I've been pretending to be." "You're talking nonsense, Sarah. We have a good life together. We're building something. But I don't want to build this. Not anymore." The words came out before she could think better of it. Michael looked at her as if she were a stranger. "You want a divorce?" he asked, his voice almost a whisper. Sarah didn't respond immediately. She thought about everything they'd built together, the years invested, the intertwined families. But then she thought about Alex, the kiss, the feeling of finally being whole. "I think I do," she said. And saying it out loud, she knew it was true. "I think we need to separate." Michael got out of bed as if he'd been shocked. "Because of a design course and a midlife crisis." "It's not a midlife crisis, Michael. It's an identity crisis. I got married too young. I never asked myself what I really wanted. And now I'm asking, and the answers are scaring me." "So you'd rather throw away 6 years of marriage because of uncertainties?" "I'd rather be honest now than live a lie for another 6 years." Michael left the room, slamming the door. Sarah heard him pacing the living room, then the sound of the front door closing. He'd left. Sarah let herself fall back on the bed, crying, but along with the tears came a strange relief. She'd told the truth. Not the whole truth, but enough to start untying the knots that bound her. She grabbed her phone and sent a message to Alex. "I told him. Didn't tell him about you, but said I want to separate." The response took a few minutes. "How are you?" "Scared, relieved, lost. All at the same time. Do you want me to come over?" "Not tonight. He might come back. But tomorrow? Can we talk tomorrow?" "Whenever you want. I'm here." Sarah slept little that night. Michael returned at dawn and slept on the couch. In the morning, when Sarah woke up, there was a note in the kitchen. "Going to stay at my brother's for a few days. We'll talk when you're less confused." But Sarah knew she wasn't confused. For the first time in a long time, she was beginning to see clearly. The following days were a blur of contradictory emotions. Sarah woke up in her empty bed, looked at the apartment that suddenly seemed too large, and tried to understand what she'd done. Michael hadn't returned, but sent short, practical messages about bills to pay and commitments to fulfill. Sarah hadn't told anyone about the separation. How would she explain? What would she say? That suddenly, at 31, she discovered she didn't know herself, that a kiss had demolished her entire, carefully constructed life? It was Alex who helped her stay intact during those first days. She didn't pressure, didn't ask difficult questions. She was simply present, brought food when Sarah forgot to eat, sat in silence when she needed to cry, offered light conversation when the weight became too heavy. "You don't need to have all the answers now." Alex would say. Just breathe. One day at a time. Sarah returned to work after a week. Her colleagues noticed she was different, quieter, more distant, but no one asked directly. In the design course, she took refuge in the manual work, finding peace in creating something from scratch. It was the course instructor Margaret, a 60-year-old woman with completely silver hair and a warm smile, who finally made Sarah talk. After class, she invited Sarah for coffee. "You're carrying a very heavy weight," Margaret said, stirring her latte. "I don't know what it is, and you don't need to tell me. But let me tell you something I've learned over all these years. Life is too short to live to please others." Sarah felt tears begin to fall. What if pleasing myself means disappointing everyone I love? Then you discover who really loves you. Because those who truly love you want your happiness, not your conformity. Those words stayed with Sarah. That night she finally called her mother and scheduled lunch. It was time to start telling the truth, at least part of it. Lunch was on Sunday, at an Italian restaurant her mother loved. Sarah arrived 15 minutes late, hands sweaty, heart racing. "Honey, you've gotten so thin," was the first thing her mother said, pulling her into a hug. "What's going on?" They sat down, ordered food. Sarah waited until the plates arrived to finally speak. "Mom, Michael and I are separating." Her mother's fork stopped midair. "What? Why? Did you fight?" "Not exactly. It's complicated." "Sarah, you've been together so long. Every couple goes through rough patches. Don't you think you should try counseling before making such a drastic decision?" "It's not about the relationship being difficult, Mom. It's about me being honest with myself about what I want. And what do you want?" Sarah took a deep breath. She wasn't ready to tell everything yet, but she could take one step. "I want to feel alive. I want to pursue my dreams. I want to discover who I am outside the role of wife." Her mother was silent, processing. "Is this about the design course? Because if it is, you don't need to get divorced to have a hobby, Sarah." "It's not a hobby, Mom. It's a dream. And no, it's not just about design. It's about having gotten married too young and never having time to know myself." "You're having an existential crisis. It will pass." "It won't pass, Mom, because it's not a crisis. It's a revelation." Guys, how many of you have been through this moment of having to tell something difficult to family? Sarah's being so brave here. If you're rooting for her, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to see how this conversation evolves. Her mother didn't understand, of course. She tried to argue, tried to convince Sarah to reconsider, talked about what people would think, about how complicated divorces were. Sarah listened patiently, but knew her decision was made. When they said goodbye, her mother hugged her tightly. "I don't understand what you're doing, but you're my daughter and I love you. Just think carefully, okay?" "I already have, Mom." That night, Sarah and Alex met again. This time, it was at Alex's apartment. She'd prepared a simple dinner, pasta with homemade sauce, salad, wine. "Did you tell your mother?" Alex asked. "Told her about the separation. Didn't tell her about, about you discovering yourself?" "Yeah." Sarah took a sip of wine. "Alex, I need to ask you something. How did you know? That you were gay, I mean. How were you sure?" Alex thought for a moment. "I think I always knew, deep down. But it took years to admit it, even to myself. I had boyfriends in high school, even got engaged once, but I always felt something was missing, And then I met a woman, fell in love, and everything made sense. It was like the pieces finally fit together." "And your family, how did they react?" "It was hard. My dad didn't speak to me for 2 years. My mom tried to understand but still struggles. My brother was the only one who supported me from the beginning." Alex held Sarah's hand. "I won't lie to you, Sarah. It's not easy. There's prejudice, there's loss, there's pain, but there's also freedom. There's authenticity. There's the possibility of loving truly, without masks. I'm afraid this is just a phase. That I'm confusing an intense friendship with something more. It could be. Or it could be that you're finally allowing yourself to feel something that was always there. Only you can know that, Sarah. And maybe you'll only find out by allowing yourself to live this experience. What if I discover I'm not this? That it was just confusion? Then you'll have gotten to know yourself better. There's no shame in exploring your feelings and discovering they weren't what you thought. The shame is in never allowing yourself to discover. Sarah looked at Alex, at this woman who'd turned her world upside down in the best possible way. "I want to try," she said finally. "I want to see where this goes, but I need to go slow. I need to be sure. We'll go at your pace, no pressure." They finished dinner talking about lighter things, design projects, ideas for the brand Alex had proposed, movies they wanted to watch. But when it was time for Sarah to leave, she hesitated at the door. "Alex? Yeah? Can I kiss you again?" Alex smiled, that smile that made Sarah's stomach flip. "You can do whatever you want." The kiss was different from the first. It didn't have the urgency of the unknown, nor the guilt of the forbidden. It was exploratory, curious, gentle. Sarah allowed herself to feel every sensation, every emotion that contact awakened. When they separated, Sarah was smiling. "This is so different." "Different how?" "From everything I've felt before. It's more intense, more real." "It's because you're being yourself, maybe for the first time." Sarah returned home with a heart that was both light and heavy. Light because she was allowing herself to explore something new. Heavy because she knew choices would have to be made, conversations would have to be had, truths would have to be faced. Michael returned the following week. They sat in the living room like strangers, with years of history between them, but an insurmountable distance. "Do you still want this?" he asked. "The separation?" "I think I do." "Is there someone else?" Sarah hesitated. She didn't want to lie, but also didn't know how to explain. "There's someone who made me realize things about myself that I didn't know." "Who?" "Does it matter?" "It matters to me. I have the right to know who destroyed my marriage." "Nobody destroyed our marriage, Michael. It was already broken. We were just pretending it wasn't." Michael ran his hand over his face, exhausted. "It's Alex, isn't it? The neighbor." Sarah's silence confirmed it. "I knew it. I saw the way you looked at her. I just didn't want to believe it." He laughed without humor. "So that's it? You're leaving me for a woman? It's not about her. It's about me. About being honest with who I am." "And who are you, Sarah? A lesbian? At 31 you suddenly discover this?" The way he said it, with such disdain, made Sarah feel angry. "Yes, Michael. Sometimes it takes time to understand certain things about yourself. And yes, I think I am. Or at minimum, I'm not straight." "This is ridiculous. You're confused. She confused you." "Nobody confused me. I just stopped deceiving myself." They argued for hours. Michael oscillated between anger, hurt, and attempts to make Sarah change her mind. But Sarah was firm. The more they talked, the more certain she was that she was making the right choice. Eventually, Michael accepted. Not because he understood, but because he realized he had no choice. They agreed on practical terms of separation. The apartment was rented, so it would be easy. They'd divide furniture, bills, and go their separate ways. "I really loved you, Sarah," Michael said as he left for the last time. "I just wanted you to know that. I know. And I loved you too, in the way I could. It just wasn't the right way." When the door closed, Sarah let herself collapse on the couch and cried. Not because she regretted it, but because it was the end of an era, the closing of a chapter. And every ending, even when necessary, hurts. Alex appeared half an hour later, without being called. She simply sat beside Sarah and hugged her, letting her cry on her shoulder. "You did the right thing," Alex whispered. "I know. But why does it hurt so much? Because you're human. Because you have a good heart, and because choosing truth over comfort is never easy." They stayed there for hours, until night fell over Brooklyn. And when Sarah finally stopped crying, she felt something new being born inside her. It wasn't happiness yet, but it was hope. Hope that on the other side of that pain, there was a version of herself who could finally breathe free. December arrived with clear skies and dry cold. Sarah was officially separated, living alone in the apartment that still shared memories of 6 years of marriage. Michael had taken his things, leaving empty spaces that Sarah slowly filled with her own objects. her design workspace in the living room, colorful fabric samples spread out, unfinished projects that showed a life rebuilding itself. News of the separation spread quickly. Sarah's mother called every day, oscillating between concern and attempts at reconciliation. "There's still time to go back," she'd say. Sarah responded with patience, but firmness. "I'm not going back, Mom." What Sarah hadn't told yet was about Alex, about the fact that her separation had a deeper reason than simply needing space to grow. She knew that conversation would come, but she still didn't feel ready. At work, Sarah had only mentioned she was separating. Her boss was understanding, her colleagues were polite but curious. She kept things professional, gave no details. Her personal life was hers. It was in the design course that Sarah began to feel truly herself. Margaret had become a kind of mentor, not just in design, but in life. She had a quiet wisdom that came from decades of experience. "You're glowing," Margaret commented in one of the classes. "Whatever you decided to do, it's working." Sarah smiled. It was true. Despite the pain, despite the uncertainty, she felt a lightness she hadn't felt in years. She woke up in the morning wanting to create, to explore, to live, and there was Alex, wonderful, patient Alex, who respected Sarah's pace, who didn't pressure, but who was always there, a constant and comforting presence. They still weren't officially a couple. Sarah needed time to understand her feelings, to be certain, not to jump from one relationship to another without processing who she was. But they spent almost all their free time together. Dinners, movies, long conversations on the balcony, design and branding projects that were beginning to take shape. It was on one of those nights, 2 weeks after Michael's definitive departure, that Sarah finally asked something that had been circling her mind. "Alex, have you dated other women who were discovering themselves?" Alex took a sip of wine, thoughtful. "Once. It was complicated." "How so?" She was still very insecure about her sexuality. She kept oscillating between wanting to be with me and being afraid of what people would think. Eventually, she went back to her ex-boyfriend. Sarah felt her stomach tighten. "And were you hurt?" "Very much. But I understood. Everyone has their own timing, and not everyone is ready to live their truth publicly." Alex looked at Sarah tenderly. "But you're not her. And what we're living is different. How do you know?" "Because you're doing the internal work. You're not just experimenting. You're discovering yourself. There's a difference." "I'm still scared," Sarah admitted. "Scared of not being enough. Scared of being confused. Scared of hurting you." Alex took Sarah's hand. "Sarah, look at me. You don't need to be certain of everything now. You just need to be honest with me and with yourself. If at some point you realize this isn't what you want, you tell me. But don't run from your emotions out of fear of making a mistake." That conversation freed something in Sarah. She stopped questioning every feeling, every thought. She simply allowed herself to feel. People. Sarah is finally allowing herself to live. If you're loving her journey, comment below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel to see the end of this amazing story. In late December, Sarah and Alex launched the first collection of pieces from the brand they'd created together, Thread and Canvas. There were only 5 pieces, blouses, skirts, and a dress, but made with care, with quality, with love. Alex had created a beautiful visual identity, and Sarah had sewn each piece by hand. They promoted on social media, telling the brand's story. 2 women, a friendship, a shared dream. They didn't mention the real nature of their relationship, not yet. But the connection between them was evident in the photos, the videos, the way they spoke about each other. Sales started slow but steady. Orders appeared, compliments arrived, and Sarah began to see that her dream could be more than just a hobby. Margaret was one of the first customers. She ordered a blouse, and when she came to pick it up in person, gave Sarah a tight hug. "I'm so proud of you. You found your voice." Sarah felt tears in her eyes. "Thank you for believing in me. I always believed. You just needed to believe in yourself." It was in early January that Sarah finally decided to tell her mother about Alex. She invited her mother for coffee at home. No longer the apartment she'd shared with Michael, but in her new home, which she'd decorated her own way, with her colors, her tastes. Alex was there when her mother arrived. Sarah had asked her to stay, for moral support. "Mom, this is Alex, my girlfriend." The silence that followed was deafening. Sarah's mother looked from one to the other, processing the information. "Girlfriend," she repeated, as if testing the word. "Are you telling me you left Michael for a woman?" "I left Michael because I wasn't happy. I'm with Alex because she makes me happy." "Sarah, this isn't right. This isn't natural. With all due respect, Mom, it's not up to you to decide what's natural for me. And when did you decide this? That you liked women? I don't know if I've always been this way and just didn't realize it, or if this is new, but I know it's real, and I know I'm not hiding anymore." Sarah's mother grabbed her purse, standing up. "I need time to process this. I understand, Mom, but I'm not changing my mind while you process. This is me, and you can accept it or not, but I'm going to keep being who I am." Her mother left without looking back. Sarah collapsed on the couch, emotionally exhausted. Alex sat beside her, pulling her into a hug. "You were incredible. So brave." "I don't feel brave. I feel tired. Courage isn't not having fear. It's acting despite fear." "And you did that." In the following days, Sarah's mother didn't call, but her younger brother Jake called. Sarah had never been very close to her brother. 4 years difference meant they'd lived different childhoods. But Jake surprised her. "Sis, Mom told me, and I just wanted you to know I support you. You seem happier than I've seen you in years." Sarah cried on the phone. "Thank you, Jake. You don't know how much that means. I know Mom's going to need time. You know how she is, she's traditional. But deep down, she loves you. She just needs to understand that her love for you is bigger than her prejudices. And if it's not, then that's her loss, not yours." Sarah gained her brother in that moment. And even though her mother was still distant, having Jake's support made all the difference. Work on thread and canvas was growing. Sarah had quit her administrative job, a terrifying leap of faith, but necessary. She was living off savings and brand sales. But for the first time in her life, she was doing something she loved. Alex and she found a rhythm. They didn't live together. Sarah needed her space, time alone to continue discovering herself. But they were inseparable. They were business partners, best friends, and yes, lovers. They'd built something beautiful together, based on respect, trust, and genuine love. In late January, 4 months after the separation, Sarah was home working on a new design when she received a message from an unknown number. It was Michael. "Saw the pieces you're selling. They're beautiful. I'm glad you're pursuing your dream. I hope you're happy, Sarah. Really." Sarah looked at the message for a long time, then responded, "Thank you, Michael. I hope you're happy too." She showed the message to Alex, who was working on her laptop beside her at the dining table. "How do you feel?" Alex asked. "At peace," Sarah responded. And it was true. "I made the right choice, for me and for him." "Do you regret anything?" Sarah thought for a moment. "I regret taking so long to know myself. But I don't regret any choice I've made since starting this journey." Alex smiled. That smile that still made Sarah's heart race. "I love you," she said, simple as that. It was the first time Alex had said it clearly, without hedging. Sarah felt her heart overflow. "I love you too," she responded, and saying it out loud, she knew with total certainty it was true. They kissed there, in the middle of the creative chaos of the living room, surrounded by fabrics and projects, by dreams becoming reality, and Sarah thought about how strange life was. 4 months ago, she was trapped in a life that wasn't hers, married to a man who didn't make her complete, pretending to be someone she wasn't. Now, she was free. She still had fears, still had doubts, still was discovering who she was. But she was doing it authentically, honestly, courageously. In early February, Sarah's mother finally called. "I still don't understand," she said without preamble, "but you're my daughter, and I love you. And if you're happy, then I'll try to understand." It wasn't complete acceptance, but it was a beginning. And sometimes, a beginning is all we need. Sarah and Alex continued building their life together, one day at a time. The brand grew, orders increased, dreams expanded. They talked about eventually moving in together, about traveling across the country looking for fabrics and inspiration, about building not just a brand, but a life. And one evening in March, 7 months after that first coffee on the balcony that changed everything, they were together watching the sunset when Alex asked, "Where do you see yourself in 5 years?" Sarah thought, "Yeah, I see myself with my own design studio, maybe even a physical store. I see myself happy, creating, living authentically. And I see myself with you." "With me?" "With you. If you want to stay, of course." Alex took Sarah's hand, intertwining their fingers. "I'm not going anywhere. You're stuck with me." "How lucky for me," Sarah said, smiling, and she truly believed it. It had been painful. It had been scary. It had cost relationships and certainties. But on the other side of all that fear, she'd found something precious. Herself. Sarah looked at the city lighting up below, at Alex by her side, at the life they were building together. She thought about how a simple phrase, "I just want to satisfy my curiosity," had opened doors she didn't know existed. That curiosity had transformed into discovery, discovery into acceptance, and acceptance into love. Not just love for Alex, but self-love. The kind of love that makes you wake up in the morning grateful to be alive, grateful to have had the courage to choose truth over comfort. "What are you thinking about?" Alex asked, noticing the smile on Sarah's face. "About how sometimes the scariest thing we can do is also the most liberating." "And do you feel free?" Sarah turned to look at Alex, this incredible woman who'd appeared in her life like a gentle storm and changed everything. "For the first time in my life, I feel completely free." They kissed as Brooklyn twinkled its lights around them, a silent witness to another story of love, discovery, and courage. A story that began with curiosity and ended with truth. And Sarah knew, with every fiber of her being, that she'd made the right choice, not the easy choice, but the right one. And sometimes, that's the most important thing we can do, choose our own happiness, even when the whole world says to choose differently. So, what did you think of this story? Did Sarah inspire you? If this story touched your heart in any way, leave a like, comment below telling us what you thought, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. There are many more emotional stories coming your way. See you next time.